listening to Hear the Chew Bubblegum, recorded from a secret location in the city that moves mountains.
Greetings.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick it, saying I'm all out of bubblegum, baby.
How you doing today, Dirty Dan?
Well, if I was any better, Goose, I'd have to go home.
Well, you can say that to the end of the show.
How about you, buddy?
I am good. I am good. It is a beautiful day back here. Beautiful day.
It is pouring cats and dogs here right now.
Well, hopefully that passes over us. It goes north of us once it gets past you.
No, trust me, you're going to want it. It smells so nice out there. It feels so nice. It's a real rain. It's finally real rain again.
Well, I mean, but it smells so nice here and feels so nice out here. I mean, it was 68 degrees at 7:30 this morning.
It's still 70 degrees outside,
So,
buddy.
I mean, it's awesome. Awesome weather back here. We are missing Simon. We would do want to apologize. Last couple of weeks, we've had some specials and flashback episodes, and we hope you guys have enjoyed those. But we are going to finish out this month by bringing you new shows, and we'll have some big news about the show coming up in a couple of weeks that we will share with you. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Good.
That's what my people are telling me, at least.
We're going to start out with some listener email this week. Now, this is listener email from the podcast show. I apologize in advance. I did not have time to print out email for the radio show. But Dirty Dan, I'll let you start out, my friend.
One from Bethany. And Bethany writes, "Hey, here to chew bubblegum. I wanted to share a recent sighting that I had. I spotted what I thought was a shooting star. It stopped in the sky and split into 3 yellow-orange lights, and they started going in and out of each other for a couple of seconds. Then they joined back into one, and it seemed to go bleary like a camera going out of focus until it faded and vanished. This was the first experience that I've had in over 15 years. I've read online that with the war in Ukraine, that more and more UAP sightings are happening. Do you think they could be connected?" Roswell. I do believe they're connected. I actually have a story on something from the conflict going on over there that has brought some, well, I'll just say it shed some light on the subject based on the title. And if y'all stick around, you'll understand why.
Yeah. And, we've always said, you've got UFO, UAP activity over military bases, bodies of water, power plants, nuclear power plants. And especially, go back in time and look at some past UFO cases. You had a lot of sightings, World War I, World War II. You had the Battle of Los Angeles during that time. I mean, from what I've read so far, and this is not mainstream news and media, I'm not even going to talk about that on the radio show. But what I've read online about sightings and so forth and activity, I think it is up. And I think that it did have an effect on it. And I know you've got a story about that, and we'll get in depth a little bit later on in the show.
But I mean, my thing with that is now think about everything that we don't know that countries have had that is now going on over top there too.
Yeah.
Like, I know we have, I don't know if you've seen it, but on like the Drive and a couple other sites, I've been following the Ghost of Kiev.
Now, the
first modern day ace who got his ace status in one dogfight.
Now, I have read that story, and then I've had other stories. People come back and say that was totally fabricated. It was not true. Have you saw those stories?
I have him logged on Flight Radar 24.
Okay, so it is in fact real.
The plane and or pilot, it was the same call sign several times that I did manage to catch him with his tracker on, are real.
Well, see, and that goes back to what I was saying, why I don't watch mainstream news. I mean, for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, it's hard to distinguish what's real and what's not. And
I mean, I had a heck of a guy I met yesterday who, because of all the BS and politics going on, no longer doing his duties and is now driving a truck and has 5 on the roads to provide for his family and make ends meet. But he gave me some insight and intel. Oh my God, I could have talked to this guy for weeks, just weeks. So he's now planning to come back and see me every now and then so we can catch up because he enjoyed talking to me. But my best friend, former branch of the military, still in the military in another branch, my neighbor, they've all kind of confirmed that, like, I didn't get my source from a mainstream site, and then my father being Air Force, the ghost of Kiev isn't a ghost. It's just he's proudly fighting for his country and his freedoms, and it is a factual story. It is not a fictional tale. So
good. And like I said, it is hard to determine, what you read in the news, what you see in the news, because video can be faked. Even if you see a particular person doing something, with all the technology they have for AI now, I mean, you can take, and hopefully, people have saw this on TikTok. There's the Tom Cruise guy that does the AI stuff that looks just like Tom Cruise. Sounds just like Tom Cruise.
Michael Jackson impersonator too.
Yeah, but it's not these people. They create this with AI, with computer software and programming and so forth. It's just hard to distinguish what's real and not real anymore. I think it's only going to get harder.
Tom Cruise guy, you cannot tell.
No, you can't
at all.
And I think it's only going to get harder to distinguish, as we go on. Marty writes in. He says, "Will you please share this on your shows? Turn off any other noises and listen to the words. We really are all one." I know I sound crazy. I found help me pronounce that word again, because I had problems with it on the podcast show.
Manifestation,
and you can go ahead and make fun of me. I found manifestations. It works, by the way. I have never been happier. Further research led me to the Emerald Tablet. I really think this is the secret of everything that the secret societies have been hiding from us for millennia. And I have heard of that. I've not really done a lot of research on it, but from what I hear,
podcast, it's as above, so below.
Definitely, and it's really good to research some of that, and I guess it would manifest your peace and happiness.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of manifestation, I saved this from the podcast for next week, so that it'd be, concurrent.
Right.
The other day we had a road call at work, and the truck wound up coming back to the shop because, unlike what the breakdown had reported, there was actual mechanical damage. And I mean, the guys I work with know me that when something can't just be figured out or obvious, or something that you really kind of have to engineer to make work, I'm the guy that gets it brought to, because I have a special way of thinking outside the box, I guess.
Right.
I'm also slightly a hoarder, but in a good way, of when I have old parts and they're still usable stuff, I save those usable things. Point in case, right here. I had a new truck that had a steer blowout on the highway, and it completely destroyed the wiring harness, connectors. He had no lights. All the light fixtures themselves were intact, but no one keeps a wiring harness in stock for this truck. They're going to have to tow it 1,300 miles and change to get a wiring harness in 3 weeks. Because I'm a hoarder, I unpinned, rewired, repinned, all sorts of stuff. And the driver's just looking at me and goes, in 32 years of driving, this was a real truck driver, not a steering wheel holder. And he goes, in 32 years of driving, I've never seen someone that should have worked for NASA more than you. And I just look over, I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, I've just been enthralled watching you work quietly, because I can see the gears turning and I can see the picture coming. And you could have built 17 rockets to all launch and land on the moon again by now. I feel like in this time, but you're here fixing my truck. And I'm like, well, that's what I do.
There you go. There you go. I mean, I tell you all the time, I'm blessed to have you as a friend. I'm glad me and your friends and brothers. But during the zombie apocalypse, you're going to help out so much, man. I mean, because you can cook, you can fix stuff. I mean, you're a big guy, so you'll be able to handle the bad people trying to come in and take our stuff.
I'm a ninja of a big guy as well.
Really, really. Now, let me ask you a question. If I got you a ninja suit, would you wear it?
Hell yeah. Heck yeah.
The full ninja suit.
Yeah. Whether it be a turtle or an all black suit, yes, I would absolutely wear it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
You better call Omar up now so he can start making it, because there's going to be some tent orders that are short.
Do you want to take the next email?
Yeah. So Dempsey wrote in and said, "Hey, Goose, DirtyDan, and Rebecca. It's been some time since my last email. During that time, it seems that things have gotten far worse on the planet than we call home. I avoid the news at all costs. Nowadays, it's very hard to determine what is true and false. I think that we're going to have some bad times ahead. And I think the cost of living is going to skyrocket within the next 30 days. But before I go, Goose had said on a recent episode, sorry, I can't remember the number, that Cookie Factory was a code word for what he actually did. I got curious, and I think that after some internet investigating, I found what you actually do. And if it is what I think it is, I want to say that I admire you even more. Any listener to the show could tell that you're not the typical run-of-the-mill one and are different. And I don't mean different in a bad way. Anyway, Goose, you should never be ashamed of that. Take care and help others if you can. Roswell."
Thank you very much. And it's not that I'm ashamed of it. It's just, there's a lot of people nowadays, this profession, don't have the best reputation based on media and so forth. And I'm definitely not ashamed of it, And I've been doing it a long time. And I just,
You're one heck of a sugar cookie creamer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And as your better half said earlier on a podcast show, if you know, you know. So, yep. But thank you very much for that email. I may read one more and let you read one more, and then we'll jump straight into segment one. Let's see. Okay. Strawberry Fields says, nuclear war might be looming. Would UFOs save us if the planet became uninhabitable? DirtyDan, I'll let you go first,
So I'm going to refer back to an Ancient Aliens episode. That was a show that ran on History Channel. It still runs on History Channel. And I could. This is the only thing on that show of the numerous seasons I've watched that I can 110% get behind. Is that my answer to that question is no, they would not save us, because looking back in history, and history repeats itself, every major catastrophic cataclysmic event that has wiped out everything has always been a reset. And I'm a firm believer that the ones out there that are superior life forms and far, far beyond what we can even comprehend are the ones doing that. And they say, oh, well, we let it go too far, or we made a mistake. Let's start over. And well, bam, that's what happens.
And I totally agree with you. I don't think that they would save us until we get if we had our act together and we loved one another and we wasn't fighting and, over stuff that don't make sense. If we were together as one, the human race, then I think if something was going to happen, we may, possibly, if UFOs, aliens do exist, which I believe that they do, I think we could and would probably get help.
Yeah, I agree to that. But I also don't see harmony coming until, realistically, we can compare the planet with the human race to water at this point, and perfectly balanced water is 7.4 to 7.6 on the pH scale. We did not start having problems until we hit 7.8 million or billion people. Right. And now we're in the 8 billions.
So we're on Yeah.
We are too alkaline right now. There's too many different people trying to do their own cause for good, and it's fighting each other. So you bring that back down, you bring the balance back, might be a different story.
I totally agree. Totally agree. You got one more email for us there before we wrap up the email portion of the show?
Because I feel like I haven't said this name out of my mouth for years now. Dixon09 wrote in, my very intimate listener. Says, hello, everyone. Great show last week. First, let me apologize. I have not written in for the last few weeks. I've been traveling due to work. Dixon, I understand. That doesn't mean that I've not been listening. I've listened to the show every Sunday evening. Sometimes if I have free time, I watch the video on YouTube page as well. I have 2 questions this week. Question 1, when is the next Antarctica show? Question 2, with the recent Russia attack on Ukraine, do you think UFO sightings will increase? Roswell, my friends, Dixon09. Goose?
Yes, I think that that UFO sightings will increase and have increased. And the next Antarctica show on the podcast will be on the 13th. Is that correct? I think that's correct.
I know you 2 went back at it. I don't know if it's the 13th or the 20th.
I'm pretty sure it was is the 13th is what we decided on. So
do I need to phone a friend?
No. March the 13th. If you're a fan of the podcast show, we will have Antarctica Part 2. And Antarctica is a fascinating place. I mean, we could do so many, and we probably will do so many parts to that. I mean, because you talk about one thing and then you forgot to add something to it, or something else comes out that happens that, it's fascinating. The whole continent is fascinating.
I know at least on Spotify, you can organize episodes to like subcategories. So I think we should start doing that for some of them, like have Here to Chew Bubblegum presents Antarctica as one.
Right. Oh, and,
definitely. Like a, we'll call it a 9-part series. And then, there's episode 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And do that because some of the stuff like we touch on with, just for Antarctica example, doesn't necessarily fit or blend with any other episode or topic besides that. And then same thing for like the space exploration. Like we could really get nitty gritty with it if they really wanted to, or if we really wanted to, and give Here to Chew Bubblegum the ultimate hitchhiker's guide to knowing the galaxy.
Definitely. We had, there was a guy that I work with. He even mentioned a while back, and this is something that we may do. He talked about taking an entire month and picking a subject and talking about that for the entire month. Yeah. And that's a really good idea as well. And I'm totally up for that as well. So
I'm down for that.
I'm up for it. You're down for it. Sounds good.
And that means Rebecca will have a story.
Well, I actually sent her one earlier this week.
I know.
Let's see. I want to thank everyone for sending an email. You can always call, text, or leave a voicemail that we'll play on the radio. Just keep it clean. The number is 606-373-3396. That's 606-373-3396.
Or you can email into the show, goose@heretechewbubblegum.com, DirtyDan @heretechewbubblegum.com, Simon@heretechewbubblegum.com, or email into the show, Ned or Elliot @heretechewbubblegum@yahoo.com.
And we are going to take a break, and let me explain what we're going to do during break. At our last radio show that we recorded in February, before we were doing the best of specials and so forth, flashback episodes, somebody had requested a repeat of the classic Elliot's Articles Roswell. Well, that segment is actually 2 parts. So now we're going to play Roswell 1 and 2 of Elliot's Articles, a classic Elliot's Articles by request. And when we come back, Dirty Dan, what will you be talking about when we come back?
Well, I got 2 different things for us today I want to go over. And one of it being related to 2 of our emails. The story is titled Some Kind of Lightning Shooting from the Sky. Ukrainians tell stories of divine intervention on the battlefield. And
Okay.
the other one is about the very unknown and mysterious yet frequently talked about topic, which is the secret military base under Denver International Airport.
That sounds good to me. Again, we're going to take a break. You will hear classic Elliot's articles, and we'll be back with Here to Chew Bubblegum in just a moment.
She grew up in the Indiana town, had a good-looking mom who never was around. She grew up tall, she grew up right with the Indiana boys on the Indiana night.
Take a lighter look into the darker side of the world. Join Elliot, Gertie, and Beagle as they jump into the dark abyss of hauntings, fables, UFOs, and beyond. The Spooky Family Podcast. You can find them where you listen to quality podcasts.
Researching the inner workings of the net to bring you stories of the strange and unusual. It's Elliot's Articles on Here to Chew Bubblegum. Take it away, Elliot.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be listening. This is Elliot with another Elliot's Articles on the Here to Chew Bubblegum podcast. This week, by listener request, we take a look at the Roswell incident. On the night of July 4th, 1947, an incident occurred in an area known as Corona, New Mexico. The incident was announced to the public by the U.S. military in a newspaper article that declared RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. The next day it was denied by the U.S. military and has remained a clouded piece of American history ever since. Now, while the incident did take place in Corona, which is located in Lincoln County, New Mexico, it was reported in Roswell, New Mexico, located in Chaves County. This is where the story takes its name. The event took place, as I stated earlier, during the first week of July 1947 and involved the recovery of wreckage by the military from a remote ranch northwest of Roswell, New Mexico. The timeline for the first 2 weeks, according to unidentifiedflyingobjects.com, is something like this. On Tuesday, July 1st, 1947, a strange object is detected on the radar scopes at Roswell, New Mexico, White Sands, and Alamogordo. Its tremendous speed and erratic motion indicated that it is neither a plane nor a meteorite. On July 2nd, an oval object is spotted by Mr. and Mrs. Dan Wilmot as it passes over their house in Roswell, New Mexico. On July 3rd, radar operator Steve McKenzie is sent to White Sands to track the object 24 hours a day. July 4th rolls around, and Warrant Officer Robert Thomas and a team of men arrive from Washington to coordinate an operation of tracking and possible retrieval. Mac Brazel, who's going to be very important to the story, as well as others, report hearing a tremendous explosion. William Woody and his father observe a flaming object fall to earth north of Roswell. Jim Ragsdale and Trudy Truelove observe a bright light crash near their campsite. The object, which has been tracked on radar for 3 days, suddenly disappears. The retrieval team assemble and start heading for the calculated crash site. On Saturday, July 5th, a sheep herder who remains nameless finds the remains of a crashed saucer but does not report this until many, many years later. A group of archaeologists also find the crashed object. They phone Sheriff George Wilcox, thinking it's some sort of crashed aircraft. Wilcox then informs the local fire department, who arrive at the scene shortly afterwards. The special retrieval team locates the crashed craft, takes the names of all the civilians on site, and then escorts them away. The site is cleaned and secured within 6 hours, and 5 bodies are removed. Mac Brazel finds strange debris in his field. The debris consists of strange foil-like substance, balsa wood-like beams, and a strange sort of string. None of Brazel's sheep will go anywhere near the debris. Lydia Sleppy, a reporter for KSWS, a local radio station, tries to send the first unconfirmed reports of the crash over the teletype. The message is intercepted by the FBI or some government agency who order her to cease transmission due to national security concerns. Melvin Brown, who was one of the guards in the truck transporting the bodies, claims that they were small with large heads and that their skin was an orange-yellow color. Glenn Davis is called by the Roswell mortuary officer and is asked several questions relating to preserving bodies, making small caskets, and how to treat bodies that had been exposed to the sun. Glenn Dennis was over the local mortuary. Dennis is later summoned to the base to treat an injured pilot. While he is there, he sees several ambulances and some wreckage. Dennis is then threatened by 2 officers who warn him not to report anything he has witnessed. Mac Brazel returned to the debris site and picks up some of the stuff and takes it to his neighbors, Floyd and Loretta Proctor. They suggest that he informs the sheriff. On Sunday, July 6th, Brazel drives 75 miles into Roswell and shows some of the debris to Sheriff Wilcox, who in turn informs the military. Wilcox then sends 2 of his deputies to the ranch. William Woody and his father try to get close to the site where they saw the strange object crash. However, they're stopped by military presence who refuse them entry. Colonel William Blanchard, commanding officer of the 509th Bomb Group, sends Jesse A. Marcel out to the sheriff's office to investigate the reported debris. There, Marcel meets with Brazel, and after seeing the debris, decides to go to the debris field. He is accompanied by Captain Sheridan Cavett and Mac Brazel. Blanchard then orders that all debris at the sheriff's office be sealed and flown to Fort Worth Army Airfield, where it is given to Colonel Thomas DuBose. An interesting side note on the 509th is that they were the group that did the atomic bombing on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. Marcel and Cavett arrive too late at night to see the debris field, so they spend the night with Brazel and his family. They also get a chance to observe some of the debris that Brazel had brought back with them. Neither of them had seen anything like it. It would not burn or scratch, yet when held in the hand it felt weightless. Several pieces of the foil-like substance, when crumpled into a ball, would return to its original shape when released. On Monday, July 7th, some of the debris and bodies from the main crash site are sent to Andrews Air Force Field. Brazel, Marcel, and Cavett arrive at the debris field. It is 3/4 of a mile long and 300 feet wide. They spend the day loading as much of the debris as possible into Marcel's car and then drive back to Roswell. General Nathan Twining, Air Material Command Commander, suddenly changes his current engagements and flies out to Alamogordo. Rumors start spreading around that Roswell base that a flying saucer has been retrieved. On Tuesday, July 8th, Marcel decides to show his family some of the debris that he's recovered before the debris becomes classified. He tells his son that it's part of a flying saucer. Marcel and Cavett meet with Colonel Blanchard to report what they had seen. As a result, Blanchard orders that the guards be placed around the debris field and to stop anyone trying to obtain access. Brazel, who spends the previous night at Walt Whitmore's, the person at KGFL Radio's house, is interviewed by him and wire recorded. Whitmore is then informed from Washington not to air the interview with Brazel due to, once again, national security concerns. Brigadier General Roger Ramey orders Blanchard to send Marcel to Fort Worth. Mac Brazel is interviewed by military personnel. This interview is going to last several days, and he's taken into custody. Lieutenant Walter Halt finishes the press release that Colonel Blanchard had authorized. He gives copies to both radio and newspapers. The story is released and claims that the Army Air Force have announced that a flying disc has been found. Within a couple of hours, the base is flooded with calls from around the world. Marcel arrives at Fort Worth and meets with General Ramey. Marcel shows Ramey the debris, who then takes Marcel into the map room so that he can show him the location of the debris site. When Marcel returns, the debris that he had brought in was gone. It had been replaced by bits of an old weather balloon. Ramey then orders that the real wreckage be sent to Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio. The military cleaned the debris site back on Brazel's ranch and transport all the debris to Wright Field. A press conference is held in which Warrant Officer Irving Newton identifies the debris as that of a balloon. Marcel is ordered not to say anything, and Ramey confirms that the men at Roswell had simply made a mistake. Marcel is then ordered to be photographed with the balloon debris. Interest in the story dies down due to the fact that the debris had been identified as of a weather balloon. On Wednesday, July 9th, Brazel's field is completely cleaned of the debris. The remaining debris is sent to Los Alamos via Kirtland Air Force Base. Brazel is seen by friends as he's escorted from the Air Force Base into town. They report that he looked very shocked and stressed. Brazel remarks to a friend, Frank Joyce, that he has to change his story to protect his family. Haught's press conference is confiscated by military personnel. Many ground personnel at Wright Field claims to see strange debris being unloaded from unmarked planes. Others report seeing bodies at the Andrews Air Force Base. Marcel meets up with Sheridan Cavett, who now claims that he never went with Marcel to the debris field on Brazel's ranch. On Thursday, July 10th, 1947, Sheriff Wilcox calls on Glenn Dennis's father and informs him that his son is in trouble with the military and advises him to talk to Glenn to make sure that he remains silent. Further balloon explanations are reported in the local newspapers. On Friday, July 11th, Glenn Dennis tries to contact a nurse who had told him that she had helped in one of the autopsies of the bodies. However, when he phones the base, he's informed that no one knows where she is. All military personnel involved in the retrieval and cleanup operation are debriefed and told to forget that it ever happened. Military police also start visiting the civilians who were on the side of the main crash. They are warned not to say anything, or they and their families will go missing. Now, this is an interesting story because it reminds me of the Men in Black. There's actually a story of a little girl who held a piece of the debris in her hand, and one of the quote-unquote military police, who weren't dressed like military police, stood on her front porch with a baseball bat in his hand and said that to forget what she knew, because in the desert, little girls go missing all the time. Now, whether that really happened or not, who knows, but I'm just saying that does sound like something that we had covered in the Men in Black episodes. On Saturday, July 12th, 1947, Mac Brazel's son Bill turns up at the ranch to help out while Mac Brazel is still being held under military guard. And on Tuesday, July 15th, Mac Brazel is finally released. All he says is that the military kept asking the same questions over and over again. Brazel revealed that he had to take an oath never to say what he saw. Now, no matter what happened during that 2-week period in New Mexico, it ignited a need in many people to seek out the unknown and to look into the mysteries of our universe. If you want to do some deep diving on this topic yourself, I would recommend the following books: The Day After Roswell by Colonel Philip J. Corso, Crash at Corona by Don Berliner, or Witness to Roswell by Thomas J. Carey. Any of those books have great information in them that you can look up yourself. But how has it been explained? I mean, surely there was an article in the newspaper that said the Army had captured a flying disc. That's pretty black and white, right? Well, the Army says no, that was actually mistaken, and today we're going to talk about a couple of different things that have happened since then. But before we get into that, dear listeners, I just want to get a little personal with you. For the last 4 or 5 nights, I've been waking up, going to sleep at a pretty normal time. I do have a regular job. And I've been waking up around in between 3 and 3:30 every night for whatever reason. It's not something I usually do. I've heard of the witching hour, and I've heard that 3 o'clock is about the time that paranormal events happen. So I'm just asking, has anybody out there been doing the same thing? Have you all had this recently? I hear a lot of people, especially chatter online, of people talking about, weird dreams and all waking up at the same time. So I put this question to you, dear listeners. Have you all been experiencing any of this? Let me know. Contact me at heretochewbubblegum@yahoo.com. Make sure you put Elliot in the subject line, and they will make sure that I get that message. Now let's talk about a little bit of Roswell once again. So as everybody knows, Roswell happened in 1947, but we didn't get a real official answer until 1994. We'd been told it was a weather balloon, but that story didn't, it didn't hold water. I'm a skeptic. I think I've said this before. I don't take UFO stories at face value. I think there is a terrestrial reasoning behind them. Now, am I saying that there's no such thing as aliens? Absolutely not. This universe is too huge. There has to be something out there. But I think a lot of the stuff that we see on Earth is probably got a earthly reason behind it. So I tend to skew that way when I talk about UFOs and aliens. When it comes to Roswell, I do not believe any of the official stories. My skepticism does not go towards the aliens, it actually goes towards the government. Because in 1994 they released an explanation saying that the Roswell crash was really something called Project Mogul. Now, Project Mogul was a device that was basically a high-altitude balloon that had microphones equipped all around it, and it was going to fly close to the USSR to detect sound waves at a stealth distance, okay? So it was basically out there monitoring if the Soviet Union was testing atomic bombs. Project Mogul, of course, if this was the case, could understand why they needed to cover up its crash. But the thing that a lot of people don't understand is Project Mogul was pretty well known at the time. I mean, they had even discussed it openly. It was just under a different name. So Project Mogul, to me, doesn't really hold water, like I said. There's other elements of Roswell, too, that doesn't make sense. Eyewitnesses claim to have saw small gray bodies. And, of course, the government, in a follow-up report to their 1994 report, said that these were actually parachute test dummies that had been sent along with that balloon. Again, why, if you are trying to monitor atomic bombs in Russia, would you need parachute test dummies? So it seems like the government is contradicting their own story there. It's very covert, and I understand that. But to say that, oh yes, this was a balloon that was monitoring, the Soviet Union and their use of atomic bombs, that we just happened to put, parachute test dummies in, does not make sense. It's also been floated out there that maybe this was some sort of ship sent by Russia, sent by Joseph Stalin to induce panic in America. It's been said that there were maybe even children who were deformed that were put inside this, and it was crashed on purpose. Again, we've already been through so much in history with Russia, and so much has already been declassified. You would think that if this was the case, the American government would want that story out there. It's not, of course. So again, I don't believe this. Now, like I said, it's kind of I'm very skeptical. I know that Jesse Marcel Jr. said that his dad, when he brought the metallic material in, that it had what he thought was Egyptian hieroglyphics on it. And some people will point to that and say, well, that was really, the Russian alphabet, the Cyrillic alphabet. But it just doesn't, it doesn't pass the smell test with me. I don't really think the Russians had anything to do with it. Now, with that said, here's the other thing that I think of when I think about Roswell. There was so much going on in that area. Los Alamos was very, very close. They were testing V2 rockets at White Sands, which also was pretty close. As I mentioned earlier, the group at Roswell Air Force Base, that was pretty much a nuclear Air Force base. They were involved, the 509th Bomb Group were actually involved in the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it doesn't make sense for the government to say, here are these things, these are balloons, put in the paper, these are a flying disc or whatever. You don't really want to draw attention to that, to that group of people. So the Roswell case, to me, out of all the UFO cases, besides maybe Rendlesham Forest, which I hope to cover one day, but out of all of the UFO cases that I've ever, had looked at or watched or read about or listened to, Roswell is the one that I think probably has the best chance of being real. I think there's just so much that the government would not want to be out there that is. And I just think that out of all of them, it has the biggest chance of being correct. Before I go, we had a listener, I think, write in. If I'm mistaken by that, please, Goose, let the listeners know. But the person wanted to know what got each of us, that would be Goose, Cronkite, Ned, and myself, into the paranormal, or what we're into now. And looking back on it, I think the biggest thing that led me down the path, so to say, was the movie Ghostbusters. Absolutely my number one favorite movie of all time. It's to this day, if it's on television or if I pass it by, I have to sit down and watch it. It's just my favorite thing in the world. So yeah, Ghostbusters. I think that's the biggest one for me. So with that being said, dear listeners, please keep your suggestions for topics coming. Please email me, talk to me. I would love to have an open dialogue with you guys. I want to talk about what you want to listen to. So please let me know, as much as you can. Also, really looking forward. We've talked about a roundtable show. I know some listeners have looked forward to that. And hopefully I'll get to be in the studio with Goose and Cronkite and Ned and maybe some other guests, and we can talk about different things. So yeah, if you've been experiencing weird things, like I mentioned at the beginning of the article, please contact me. Let me know. Let's talk about it. Contact Goose, contact Cronkite, let them know. If you've got any kind of topic you want me to discuss, contact me. Let me know at heretechewbubblegum@yahoo.com. Make sure you put "Attention Elliot" in the subject line. They'll make sure I get the message. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you all have had a great weekend, weekday, whatever time you're listening. Stay vigilant. Keep watching. Elliot out.
Our times have come here, but now they're gone.
You're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum with Goose and DirtyDan.
And welcome back to Here to Chew Bubblegum. I am Goose, and with me, as always, is my friend and brother from another mother, DirtyDan, the barbecue man.
Hey, that's me. That
is you. So you're going to tell us about the Ukrainian UFO sightings.
Yes. Well, now it's they don't officially call it a UFO in here.
Okay. Do they call it a UAP?
No. They don't know what it is.
Well, so that's even more mystery.
Are Ukrainians receiving some heavenly help in the fight against the Russian invaders? Stories of divine intervention are being told, including a pillar of fire at night and confused Russian troops. In this week's episode of CBN News, The Global Lane, CBN Ukraine director Konstantin Litvinenko explains that although his fellow countrymen are showing incredible strength and resiliency in this war, they're experiencing some divine intervention. This has been caught on news. Litvinenko said one man shared with him a story of his son who's serving in the army. He said the man told him on a dark night, the soldiers were holding their positions and discovered there were a lot of Russian Federation tanks and other mobile units coming directly at them. And it appeared that the soldiers were having trouble defending themselves. So the son picked up the phone and called his father to, said, "Hey, Dad, you have to pray right now. We're in a situation." So the father called other members of their church and asked them to start praying. Later, the son called his father back. And he said, "There's a miracle that happened. It looked like an attack on the Russians from a spaceship. There's some kind of lightning shooting from the sky, and sparks were spreading everywhere, raining down like fire. In the morning, the Ukrainian troops discovered that the Russian tanks and other mobile units had been destroyed. All of the soldiers thought maybe it was done by some kind of weapon we didn't know about. However, nothing was reported in the sky." He also relayed another incident that he had heard from a friend. and he said that the friend told him that they were praying that the Russians would start resisting each other and that the enemy would resist the enemy. He explained that there were several incidents like this in the Bible. And another part of the Russian army that occupied one little town had removed flags from the town's government buildings, and they had attached those flags to their tanks. And they started to drive, and eventually in the evening, they met with the first group of Russian tanks. Litvenko said that both groups of tanks were confused, and they thought they were looking at the enemy. They all shot each other.
Wow. That definitely sounds like a divine intervention to me.
I am the second story. It's not funny, people died, but it's just funny that they wore the flags as to try and do a victory boast, and then they wound up,
shooting each other. Yeah.
But like I said, it wasn't called a UFO, wasn't called a UAP. It was said a spaceship rained fire down on them.
Is there anything that explains like the dimensions of the spaceship? Is it triangle? Is it tube? Is it
tic-tac?
Okay.
And there was, like I said, there was nothing registered in the airspace that night.
Well, what better way for some country that's saying they're not getting involved than to take their TR-3B or other technology they have and go on over there and...
Well, tic-tac. TR-3B is not a tic-tac.
Yeah, right. But, there, and I think we've talked about it on the show, there's like an advanced TR-3B now that's, it's... The advanced one looks more human-made than the original one. Have you saw pictures of it and so forth?
I've seen pictures of all three versions:
okay.
The prototype, the actual, and then the newer one.
The newer one. The newer one to me, it looks. You can look at it. Me, personally, I can look at it and be like, well, this is man-made. Whereas the first one, it does not look man-made to me. Just a straight triangle one.
Right.
That one does not. Have you heard about the moon? I'm sure you know what the moon is, correct? The Earth moon. Okay. MysteryWire.com reports the moon is about to get a wallop by 3 tons of space junk, a punch that will carve out a crater that could fit over several semi-tractor trailers. The leftover rocket will smash into the far side of the moon at 58,000 miles per hour on Friday, away from the telescope's prying eyes. It may take weeks, months, or some other lengths of time to confirm the impact through the satellite images. It's been tumbling haphazardly through space, experts believe, since China launched it nearly a decade ago. No matter whose it is, the scientists expect the object to carve out a hole 33 feet to 60 feet across and send moon dust flying hundreds of miles. Low orbiting space junk is relatively easy to track. Objects launching deeper into space are unlikely to hit anything, and these far-flung pieces are usually soon forgotten, except by a handful of observers who enjoy playing celestial detective on the side. SpaceX originally took the rap for the upcoming lunar litter after asteroid tracker Bill Gray identified the collision course in January. He corrected himself a month later, saying that the mystery object was not SpaceX Falcon rocket from 2015 launch for NASA. Gary did then say that it was likely that this was a third stage of a Chinese rocket that sent a test sample capture to the moon back in 2014. But Chinese officials said that the upper stage ship that they had re-entered Earth's atmosphere and burned up. The U.S. Space Command, which tracks the lower space junk, confirmed Tuesday that the Chinese upper stage from 2014 lunar mission never deorbited, as previously indicated in its database. But it could not confirm the country of origin for the object about to strike the moon. We focus on objects closer to Earth, a spokesperson in a statement said. Gray, a mathematician and physicist, said he's confident now that it is China's rocket. Now, I find it hard to believe that China would lie to us and say that that's not their rocket, don't you?
I find that extremely hard to believe. I've always found them to be complete upstanding citizens.
Well, you don't have to go that far. I was just being sarcastic and so forth.
So was I.
So, but yeah, they were.
We did share an article about their rocket careening out of the sky uncontrollably with a trajectory path of us.
Yeah, and they did not know where exactly it was going to splash down at.
Or when.
Yes. I do think it is good that they come back and said that SpaceX is not responsible for this.
I mean, let's be real. My love for Elon aside, they do own their stuff.
Yes.
When they screw up, and they're usually the ones showing their screw up before anyone else gets to, so that it's not misconstrued.
And, that says a lot about what you're actually trying to do and achieve with your company and so forth.
Because rather than try and hide behind the naked eye, you just show the naked eye.
Exactly. Now,
you've got too many tunnels to dig under Las Vegas.
Well, speaking of tunnels under places, your next story is one that I have always been intrigued with and have researched and still continue to research. We even at one time had a representative from this organization on the phone. And
did not get very far.
No, we did not.
We might have to do that again.
Oh, I am definitely up for that.
So this comes from November 30th of 2021. Perhaps one of the most closely scrutinized alleged military bases around the world is the one said to sit underneath the new Denver International Airport. The new complex has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories before a plane had even departed from one of its runways, and it's easy to see why. After initial start, it was told that the estimated cost was $1.7 billion. Long after it was completed, after substantial delays no less, we were found that the cost had risen to just short of $5 billion. When it was eventually revealed to the public on February 28th of 2005, the layout took up much more land than had originally been suggested, and the runways themselves appeared to represent a Nazi swastika when viewed from above. Even the mascot of DIA, Mustang, the fiberglass horse that stands proudly outside, glowing red eyes to boot, has been responsible for at least one death. Its creator, Luis Jimenez, was killed by his own artwork when the Mustang's head fell off during completion and fatally severed an artery in Jimenez's leg. Throughout the airport, demonic sculptures and artwork haunt the walls, including a bizarre painting that appears to show the aftermath of a horrific global conflict. When the letters AUAG were seen in the artwork, conspiracy theories went into overdrive that the painting represented an upcoming biological attack, possibly one that would be released from DIA. At the time, a new deadly strain of hepatitis named Australia antigen had just been discovered, and the symbol for which was AUAG, which only added fuel to those theories. The dedication stone that sits outside the state-of-the-art construction states that it was built by the New World Airport Commission, but there is no such body to be found anywhere on record. Might it be a secret organization? The abundance of Freemason symbols also found throughout the airport does nothing to quell these types of assertions. The short video, it has a video attached of the main conspiracy theory surrounding the new DIA, but we all know that. However, the biggest update to it was the official blueprints of the underground tunnels and bunkers were leaked. And perhaps what fanned the conspiracy flames of DIA more than anything else was the discovery of the blueprints of an attempt at building the new airport. These blueprints revealed a total of 5 known buildings that were completed and underground, but seemingly abandoned due to incorrect positioning. It was subsequently decided, instead of tearing the buildings down and making use of the materials elsewhere, it would be preferable to bury them, complete and intact instead, and occupy them. Some believe that these buildings, however, now were not just abandoned, but instead make up part of the complex that is buried and operational below DIA. Various theories have been put forward regarding what these underground facilities might be, from FEMA detention units to hideaway bases for the global elite. When numerous construction workers began to make claims that they were 5-story buildings below the main airport, as well as a secret network of tunnels, the conspiracy theories began to look a little less far-fetched. Maybe the fact that Denver is the apparent chosen location of such a secret installation for the elite is a clue in itself. The city is a mile above sea level, hence why it's called the Mile High City. Might it be that this very fact makes area favorable should there be any kind of natural or man-made disaster? Particularly one that might involve intense flooding and rising sea levels. Journalist Alex Christopher even claimed to have evidence to show that powerful elites were purchasing land and properties under false names within the Denver region in the mid-90s, including members of the British royal family. However, it was other claims made by Christopher that really began to take a little more notice. And there's another video on the art, but with one-time whistleblower Phil Schneider as her research partner, Christopher made claims of not only an alien presence in facilities, and in particular DIA, but claims of them using human slave labor for it. During the radio interview with Dave Allen on KSCO Radio in 96, Christopher claimed that she and Schneider had managed to infiltrate the underground network below DIA, befriending and obtaining information from many workers eager to divulge its secrets. And not only was the slave labor human, but a lot of the workers were actually children, and pointed to the astronomically high amount of missing children in the U.S. that are literally never seen again. To highlight her point further, when these children are worked to a point just short of death, Christopher stated they were slaughtered on the spot and consumed by aliens who were behind all of the underground construction. They specifically like young children that haven't been contaminated like adults. She further stated that there was a war going on under our feet and above our heads, that the general public are completely unaware of it. And a war that involved humans, gray aliens, and reptilians. Christopher's assertions of reptilians, as well as the claim she makes of the United States still being ruled by the British royal family, whose influence is far-reaching today as it ever has been, is very much in line with a lot of the reptilian theories expressed by David Icke. Are they simply jumping on each other's bandwagons in an effort to prove each other and themselves credible, or might they have arrived at similar conclusions because there is more truth in their theories than most can or perhaps want to imagine?
Now that's, the building something and it not fitting or some kind of construction flaw, you can't just bury it and build over top of it just like that. You would have to, you have standards to go by. You have codes, you have to go and so forth. If you're going to bury something, you're going to have to wait several years to let the ground settle before you can build anything on top of it. I don't buy that story that they covered it up and immediately started building over top of it. You don't do that. That makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, anybody would know that.
I think that they were discovered that they had done that, and it was years prior, and that's why DIA got put over top of it.
Right, and that's just the story that they put out, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the thing that is rarely mentioned about this whole thing is that other person, Schneider, they're just talking about, right after his speech exposing all this stuff, he was found dead with flex pipe wrapped around his neck 3 times, but the autopsy reports he died of a stroke.
Yeah. I don't see that. We're definitely going to have to research the Denver airport some more. Get back down that rabbit hole.
Well, as I had said on the podcast, new listener, his son lives in Colorado, and he's going out there soon. So I'm gonna have to put some bug in his ears and have him put some bugs in his son's ears for me.
Yeah, definitely do that.
See if they have any contacts that we could possibly reach out to.
Definitely, that sounds good to me. I do want to thank you, Dirty Dan. I hope you do get feeling better. We'll go ahead and start closing things out. That'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week. And until then, so long for now.
Maybe I'm not leaving. Maybe I'm just going home.
Thanks for listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. Tune in next time as we dive deeper into things the government doesn't want us to know.